Hey folks, so Unit 3 has opened and I am going to walk you through the content there, the assignment for this unit, and then the plan for the next unit because they kind of go hand in hand. I'm going to open up the content and scroll down on the left side until I get to Unit 3, Personal Argument Writing. As you can see here, the schedule for the unit is in the middle in week 5, which is this week. We will be working mostly on some readings, introducing ourselves to argument, what it means to argue in an essay, as well as the essay itself. So the topic choices, you will be given a list of topics to choose from in this unit. So that is what you will be working towards. And then a few more readings on argumentative writing, how to persuade, and because this is a personal argument essay, how to use personal examples. There will also be a set of slides that you can look through about how to choose your topic, how to narrow down your ideas into a thesis statement. And then there are 2 sample essays for you to read over. We will have one brainstorming discussion board due June 27th at 5 p.m. Replies for that will be due on the next day, June 28th. And then week 6, because we did all that reading ahead of time, will kind of be a time for you to spend on the personal argument essay. So there will be an outline required. It will just be for completion grade, but it will be really helpful and beneficial for you in your writing, almost kind of like a rough draft, but for you to have an outline so that when you go to actually write the personal argument essay, you have something to look back to, not just, a list of scattered notes, but hopefully an outline that's beneficial for you in your writing process. You'll notice that the personal argument is timed, much like the personal narrative that we wrote in the beginning of the semester. It will be timed on Brightspace in the form of a quiz. And as you can see, that personal argument essay will be due on the 5th of July. So if you want to get it done before the 4th of July so that you can have that weekend to spend with your friends and family, you absolutely can get it done before then. But if you don't and you decide to put it off, that's okay. You have until July 5th at 5 p.m. to submit it. Remember, it is a timed quiz, just like the first essay. So give yourself at least an hour and a half, if not 2 hours, blocked out of your schedule to work on it. But you can work on it up until July 5th at 5 p.m. That's when it will close. If you have any questions about the schedule, please let me know. Like I said, mostly this unit, we're introducing ourselves to a new idea, which is argumentative writing. So it's a lot of reading, a lot of figuring out how we are going to argue with our own personal examples. And so I'll show you some slides and stuff right now to kind of get you in the mood of argument. So right below the Unit 3 tab, when we open it for the first time, there are 2 files. The first is the Introduction to Argument slides, and then the second is the topic choice list for this unit. I believe this topic choice list is also listed in the assignment on the quiz itself, so you have it in several places, but we're going to go over those things now. Okay, so here are the Introduction to Personal Argument slides. You feel free to look at these on your own time and read them a little bit more closely, but I'm going to briefly go over them. They're only 7 slides, but it introduces you to the idea of what argument is and what we're going to be doing for the rest of the unit. So firstly, what is an argument? There are different types of arguments, like you might have arguments with your friends about what your favorite movie is, but in academic writing, an argument is usually a main idea, often called a claim or a thesis statement. You've likely heard thesis statement before. An argumentative thesis statement is backed up with evidence that supports the idea at hand, the main idea. In the majority of the college writing you will be doing from now until the end of your college career, you will need to make some sort of claim or argument and use evidence to support it. We've seen this in previous essays. In the second unit, we worked on this a little bit by making an argument about which article was more persuasive and why. That is an argument. So you have done a little bit of this before, we just might not have called it argument. There are typically 2 types of argumentative writing you can partake in academia. The first is a personal argument, which is what we're going to be doing in this unit. And then the second is a researched argument. Personal argumentative essays are based on a singular argument at the thesis statement However, the evidence and examples that are used to support that argument are typically personal to the author. There are several ways in which you can create these personal examples. They can come from your own life. So, if you are arguing about how public transportation should be free for everyone, you can argue based on your personal experience with public transportation. Or they can be hypothetical examples that you create. Think about Michael Levin's arguments in his article, The Case for Torture. He used hypothetical examples that he supported his argument with, and those were not examples from his, quote, personal life, but they were personal examples because he came up with them. They are not, for example, like the Solomon article, pulling from real life examples. Researched argumentative essays are very similar. They are still argumentative, but they are based on a single argument at the thesis. But the evidence and examples that support that argument come from research. So research is looking through outside sources and finding evidence or examples that support your thesis statement. A great example of this is the Elisa Solomon article that we read in Unit 2. She pulled from things like the CIA training manual, the news articles in Israel and other countries to use as examples and evidence to support her own claims. We'll be doing both kinds of argumentative writing in the class, but in this unit, for the beginning, we are focusing on personal argument because often it is the case that arguing from personal experience is a lot easier for students and a lot more passionate, typically. So the first thing we'll be doing is personal argument. The second type of argumentative writing for Unit 4 will be researched. Okay, here is a video in these slides from Khan Academy called What is Argument? I highly recommend watching that, especially if at this point in these slides, you're still feeling kind of lost or confused about what an argumentative piece of writing is. This is one of the reasons I encourage you to read the slides yourself, because I'm not going to play this video for you now and make you watch it while you're watching my video, but it is a helpful reminder, especially if you've never written argumentative style before, or you're still just a little fuzzy on what argumentative writing is. So for this in-class essay, and technically because we are not in class, it will just be a timed essay, all the evidence that you include will come from either your own personal life experiences or hypothetical scenarios that you make up yourself. And again, another good example of that is that Michael Levin piece that we read in Unit 2, how he came up with these hypothetical examples to kind of convince his audience. Either type of evidence is useful for an argument, but consider what might be most convincing to your audience. If you have particular insight into your topic, your personal experiences might be more useful, right? So, for example, if you're arguing about strict dress codes when your high school had strict dress codes, that might be a useful place to use personal argument because you have some personal stake in the argument at hand. Another example is arguing for better representation in media for your particular marginalized community. You have particular experience in that marginalized community, so you are a good reference for what representation in media might need to be. Another reason you might want to use hypothetical scenarios is if you don't want to share much about your personal life. We wrote the personal narrative essay in the beginning of the unit, and while I really enjoy getting to know you all through those personal narrative examples, I am not requiring you to tell me your whole life story. So if you don't want to share anything from your personal life any more than you already have, that's fine. You can use these hypothetical scenarios that you can make up. And in some cases, they might actually be more beneficial to your argument than personal examples. Consider using hypothetical scenarios when arguing that one thing is either better or more useful than another thing. Take the sample argumentative essay, for example, and you can read that on your own. The student argues that in-person classes are more effective than online classes. She doesn't use her personal experience to argue this. She uses hypothetical learning situations that she's come up with to explain why that is, not any outside sources from research. Here are the topics that you will get to choose from. I've chosen these topics for a very specific reason that we'll get to in the research unit, but just know that one of the big reasons I chose these topics is because they all have sources, outside sources that are discussing these topics in research, so that when we get to the research unit, you will guaranteed to be able to find some research. And I think I mentioned this before, but it's important to know, Unit 3, this personal argumentative essay that we're working on, will be a stepping stone to the research unit. So in the personal argument essay, we are arguing something from personal experience or from hypothetical scenarios that we've created. In Unit 4, the research unit, we're taking that same topic, that same argument, maybe even that same essay, and turning it into a research essay. So we'll be doing research on that topic. We'll be finding evidence that supports our topic more clearly and directly than our personal examples, and kind of formulating our essay into an even stronger research essay by the end of Unit 4. So when you are choosing your topics, I highly recommend picking something that you actually care a little bit about, because it will make it so much easier for you to write an essay about, but also you will not get bored of it by the time Unit 3 is over. Because remember, you are likely going to pick it back up and continue working on it in Unit 4. So when you're considering your topics, really think about, one, what you can bring to the table in terms of personal knowledge on that topic. But a second thing, make sure that it's something that you care about at least a little bit, because you will have to be writing about it for the next 2 units. Okay. I encourage you to start considering your topic now. You don't really have to decide on a topic specifically until the discussion board post, which is due on the 27th. So you have some time to think about it, but I would start brainstorming your topics. And there are some slides on Brightspace in this unit that allow you some ways in which you can choose your topic a little more specifically. Okay, so those were the slides, Introduction to Personal Argument. Right below those slides are the topics, again, in a document list. If there's something that you are just wildly passionate about that does not appear on this list, but might be similar to these topics, go ahead and email me about it and see if it's something you can write about. The only concerns I have are that you are writing about something that has a lot of research to back it up and that is not full of bias or unintended personal prejudices. So make sure that it's something you care a little bit about, ideally something that you maybe have some personal experience or personal knowledge about, but is also something that you can argue successfully in the research unit once we get there. In week 5, it is mostly those readings that we have, as well as these slides called Topic Choice for Argumentative Essay. They go over in detail an outline for the argumentative essay, as well as how you might narrow down your thesis statement from just your big subject. So the topic list that I've given you are just topics, right? They are not arguments. So you will have to discover what you want to argue about within that topic once you've chosen a topic. So for example, if you choose zoos and aquariums, that's one of the topics on the list. You can't just say, zoos and aquariums are my topic and I'm going to write a report on zoos and aquariums. This is an argumentative essay. So you need to make an argument about something, some issue within the topic of zoos and aquariums. These slides are super important because they teach you how to go from that big idea as a subject to an actual position that can be considered a thesis statement. Below that are the 2 sample essays for this unit. Below those sample argumentative essays are the discussion board post, where you will be required to brainstorm some topic ideas and then discuss with your peers what might be the best option. Notice here that it says once you have read over the introduction to argument slides and the discussion for argumentative writing slides, both of those are linked there. Make sure to look through the topic choice list before you start the discussion board, because if you come into the discussion board writing about a topic that's not on the list, then it won't be beneficial for you. So it asks questions like, what topic did you choose? What is the issue you plan to confront? And what is your position on that issue? In order to get full credit, you have to respond to at least 2 of your fellow classmates' posts. this is the bulk of what we're doing this week. So I encourage you to spend some good time working on this post and being actually helpful to your fellow classmates so that you and your fellow classmates can get something helpful for when we're going into next week and actually turning in these essays. So keep that in mind. Start working on this as soon as you can. And if you have any questions about any of it, please let me know. All right, I'm going to let you guys work. Like I said, please email me at cassie.outler@mga.edu if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing what you all are going to argue about. One last thing, I posted an announcement updating you about a small health issue that I'm dealing with. This week now, I will be having my gallbladder removed, which is an outpatient procedure. It should be fine, but I will be healing a lot in the coming weeks, and I can't promise how much work I'll actually get done. So I have everything set up and ready to go for you guys so that you can work on this successfully. But if I'm slower to respond, if I am slower to grade, just know that that is why. I'm dealing with almost every day having gallbladder attacks. So I'm really looking forward to getting it removed. So if you have any questions for me and I don't respond to your email as quickly as I normally would, that's why. Please be patient with me, but I'd be happy to be patient with you, especially if you need extensions on any assignments. I look forward to reading your discussion board posts and then your eventual argumentative essays. Please reach out if you need anything, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.